Xiao Wu glared at Tang San, remembering the miserable scene when she was hit by a stone last time. She couldn't hold back her anger. What are you waiting for? Who knows when you'll come back? They're already bullying us. That scumbag called Xiao Lauda said he wants me to be his pet rabbit. If I could tolerate that, I wouldn't be called Xiao Wu. Tang San frowned, thinking to himself, a child this young already has such filthy thoughts. It seems they really need to be taught a lesson to know that part-time students are not easy to bully. With this in mind, he flicked his finger at his waist and turned his gaze to the battlefield. At this moment, Wang Sheng was already covered in bruises. Amidst continuous roars, his soul power had become weaker and weaker, while his opponent had not been hit once, playing around like a cat and a mouse. Wang Sheng's attack pattern was still too single-minded. Taking advantage of the fact that his soul power had not yet been completely depleted, he launched his final wave of attacks. Taking 2 steps back, he pounced towards Lu Long once again. This time, he was determined. Even if he was beaten miserably, he had to leave a mark on his opponent. Having dealt with Wang Sheng for quite some time, Lu Long naturally wouldn't fail to see his intention. Seeing Wang Sheng pounce over, his expression turned serious. Swinging his long staff, he struck 3 times towards Wang Sheng's head and shoulders respectively. As long as he pushed back this desperate opponent, there was no possibility for him to launch another decent attack. But just at this moment, suddenly, Lu Long felt as if his hands holding the staff were stung by mosquitoes, causing his attack to slow down. His attacks were originally calculated. At this moment, this slight hesitation immediately exposed a loophole. Although the first strike hit Wang Sheng's head, Wang Sheng stubbornly withstood it and rushed up, causing his next 2 strikes to miss. For a martial soul master, using long weapons to be approached by someone with a beast martial soul was definitely a devastating blow. Even though Lu Long's strength was higher than Wang Sheng's, the result was still the same. With a bang, Wang Sheng's tiger claw slapped Lu Long's head, sending him flying. Then, with a flip of his body, his right leg followed up with a heavy tiger tail whip, slamming heavily on Lu Long's back and sending him crashing to the ground. Lu Long didn't have the same resistance as Wang Sheng. His soul power was all on the long staff, and his own defense was not outstanding. With Wang Sheng's 2 consecutive attacks, when Lu Long crashed to the ground heavily, he immediately passed out. Wang Sheng excitedly roared to the sky, as if venting all the resentment in his heart over the past few years. Xiao Lauda, who was originally watching Lu Long play with Wang Sheng, was suddenly shocked by the sudden reversal of the situation. It's worth mentioning that among his subordinates, Lu Long was also ranked in the top 3 in terms of strength. If it weren't for Wang Sheng already having the first soul ring, it couldn't be guaranteed that he could defeat Lu Long. Xiao Wu teasingly said, "It seems like defeated flower, defeated willow, is indeed a defeated flower, defeated willow, truly not worth a blow." Xiao Lauda, what do you say? Xiao Lauda waved his hand, letting his subordinates pull Lu Long down for urgent treatment. They were just junior Soul Master Academy students, and with their meager soul power, they couldn't afford to lose a life. We've lost the first round. Ling Feng, it's your turn. The second one dispatched by Xiao Lauda was a slim senior student with a small nose and small eyes, and a slender figure that didn't look like he was 12 years old at all, but rather similar to Xiao Wu, Tang San, and the others. Let Wang Sheng come back. I'll go up. Tang San whispered in Xiao Wu's ear. Xiao Wu's eyes were also quite discerning. Naturally, she could see that the second one to come up was an agile type of soul master, perfectly countering Wang Sheng. Wang Sheng had depleted too much soul power before and was sure to lose. Wang Sheng, come back. Let San go up for this round. You can rest. At this moment, Wang Sheng had not completely recovered from the excitement of defeating Lu Long. Hearing Xiao Wu's voice, he only then realized that Tang San had returned at some point. He knew his own situation. Although he had defeated Lu Long, he really had no strength left to fight again. Where would he know that if it weren't for Tang San quietly flicking 3 small stones, restricting Lu Long's attacks, how could he have possibly won before? Are you a part-time student? Ling Feng looked at Tang San, his eyes showing a suspicious look. Tang San just nodded at him. Please go ahead. Although Ling Feng was slim, he was still taller than Tang San by a little, being a senior student for a year. This was a duel that determined who would become the student leader. He didn't think much about it anymore. After taking another look at Tang San's waistband, he suddenly jumped up. With a nimble flip in the air, his arms spread open, and he glided 2 meters in the air, pouncing towards Tang San's head. Tang San saw through the opponent's martial soul at a glance. These days of Grandmaster's teaching were not in vain. The student called Ling Feng was an agile type of soul master. His martial soul should be a flying beast. Judging from his not particularly fierce appearance and attack style, he shouldn't be an eagle. Then, it would be a swallow, crow, or similar martial soul. Seeing the opponent pouncing towards him, Tang San remained motionless, as if the opponent didn't exist. Ling Feng's speed was very fast. Among the 6th grade students, he was known as the fastest, a close friend of Xiao Lauda, and his body was very agile. Seeing that he was about to reach Tang San's front, suddenly, his body turned over again, and with a shake of his arms, he forcibly changed direction. Coming behind Tang San, both arms swung towards Tang San's neck from both sides. Even when Ling Feng flipped over from above his head, Tang San didn't move. Facing an opponent with unknown abilities, staying unchanged in the face of change is the best choice. If it was before he obtained the first soul ring, perhaps Tang San wouldn't be so arrogant, but since obtaining the first soul ring, his speed, strength, and reaction capabilities have all undergone qualitative leaps. The most acute senses and various reactions are the sharpest aspects of Tang sect disciples, and speed is also one of their advantages. Compared to speed, who would he fear? Ling Feng changed his shape in the air, seeking suddenness. Seeing that Tang San was just a 1st or 2nd year student, he couldn't help but look down on him a bit. He prepared to win with one blow, directly forcing Xiao Wu to take action. However, just as his palms were about to close in, ready to concentrate on Tang San's neck, Tang San moved. With a phoenix nod, he just avoided Ling Feng's hands, and as he leaned forward, Tang San's right leg swung back like it was broken, and throughout the whole process, he didn't even turn his head back. As quiet as a virgin, as fast as a rabbit, Tang San interpreted this to a perfect extent. The burst of speed was so fast that even the onlookers couldn't see it clearly. Tang San's heel intimately contacted Ling Feng's chin. Ling Feng made a 3rd somersault in the air, and it was even consecutive backflips. With a bang, he fell heavily several meters away, following in the footsteps of Lu Long, directly fainting. His chin had already been dislocated by Tang San's kick. This was still without Tang San using internal force, otherwise this kick could have at least shattered his chin. The flexible controlling single whip leg, a basic leg technique in martial arts, combined with Tang San's sharp senses, achieved the effect of instantly killing the opponent in an instant. The high-level students on Xiao Laoda's side almost simultaneously widened their eyes. They couldn't believe that everything that was happening in front of them was real. Among them, Ling Feng was second only to Xiao Laoda in strength. However, facing a seemingly 1st or 2nd year student, he was knocked unconscious with one kick, and he didn't even have time to launch his best attack. Xiao Laoda muttered, "Damn, is the world changing? How come the younger generation nowadays are so powerful?" Until he heard Ling Feng's landing sound, Tang San slowly retracted his raised right leg backward and said calmly, "Next." Xiao Laoda was surprised, and on the side of the part-time students, Xiao Wu was equally astonished. She had sparred with Tang San more than once, and at this moment, She clearly noticed that Tang San had made significant progress and that he seemed different from his usual self when entering battle. Normally, Tang San appeared as a gentle child, but once in battle, his attacks became extremely fierce. Wang Sheng, disregarding the pain on his body, watched as Ling Feng was kicked away by Tang San, and he laughed maliciously. How about that, Xiao Lauda? Convinced or not? Our Tang San didn't even use soul power. I think you should just admit defeat. Spare yourself some physical suffering. Xiao Lauda walked out with a gloomy face. After losing 2 rounds in a row, it was time for him to step in. He asked himself, apart from himself, there was no one stronger than Ling Feng in his group. If the low morale couldn't be restored in time, there was no need to continue the remaining duels. Only by defeating the kid in front of him with fierce means and then defeating Xiao Wu could he save face. Xiao Lauda looked coldly at Tang San. At this moment, the contempt and disdain on his face had disappeared, replaced by seriousness. Xiao Qinyu, 6th grade student, martial soul, wolf. 11 rank 1 ring soul master. Reporting his own martial soul and rank was a sign of respect for the opponent. As he spoke, a layer of green light emerged from Xiao Qinyu's body. In the shimmering green light, his muscles began to swell, his eyes gradually turned light green, his arms slowly lifted, his claws pointed forward, and his nails became sharp. A circle of white soul ring rose from under his feet, showing the appearance of martial soul fusion. Xiao Qinyu, as the leader of the students, showed his intelligence at this moment. What his martial soul was, there were not many people in the entire Dolua continent who didn't know, but it was different for Tang San. For him, Tang San's martial soul was still mysterious. By reporting his own martial soul first, he could know what Tang San's martial soul was before he started. In this way, he could also be somewhat prepared. Tang San had heard from the Grandmaster about the rule of reporting martial souls. Unless he looked down on his opponent and wasn't afraid of the opponent becoming a lifelong enemy, when facing an opponent reporting their martial soul, it was generally customary to report one's own martial soul first, indicating mutual respect and skill exchange. Tang San, first-year part-time student, martial soul, blue silver grass. 11 rank 1 ring tool soul master. When Tang San reported that his martial soul was blue silver grass, the high-level students behind Xiao Qinyu almost simultaneously burst into laughter, and the tension on their faces immediately disappeared. They didn't even hear Tang San's subsequent rank. Blue silver grass was a waste martial soul, which had long been recognized throughout the continent. Even though Tang San's strength was not weak, the gap in martial souls made them not have to worry about Xiao Lauda losing to someone higher ranked. How many ranks did you say you were just now? Xiao Qinyu was not as careless as his subordinates. Because of the noise behind him, he didn't hear Tang San's rank when he reported it. 11 rank, 1 ring tool soul master. As he spoke, a faint white light shone from Tang San's body. He raised his right hand, and the blue-silver grass grew quietly from his palm. As he waved his right hand, the blue-silver grass fluttered under his feet. A bright yellow soul ring rose from Tang San's feet, swirling around his body, undulating up and down. The appearance of the yellow soul ring was like a heavy slap to those high-level students, freezing their laughter immediately. Some of them even stood with their mouths agape, looking at Tang San as if he were a monster. 100-year soul ring. Xiao Qinyu gasped in cold air. White represents a 10-year soul ring, while yellow represents a 100-year soul ring. The difference of 1 level in soul rings, under the condition of equal soul power levels on both sides, will have a decisive effect. This is impossible. The appearance of soul rings on Tang San's body can be said to subvert these students' understanding of martial souls. A first-year student, representing an age of only 6 or 7 years old, has already cultivated to the level of a soul master. This has never happened in the history of the entire Novice Soul Master Academy. Moreover, his martial soul is still the blue silver grass, known as a waste martial soul. Boss, he's just a blue silver grass. What's the big deal with the soul rings? A senior student couldn't help but say. Idiot, shut up, Xiao Chenyu shouted, interrupting his subordinate. Just a blue silver grass? Xiao Chenyu's thoughts were definitely not that simple. It's true that the blue silver grass is a waste martial soul, but when it reaches the level of a soul master, it's somewhat different. And he even has a 100-year soul ring. This couldn't possibly be something he obtained on his own. Since someone could help him obtain a 100-year soul ring and help him cultivate to the level of a soul master, then how powerful would the force be behind this first-year kid? Xiao Chenyu's father is the lord of the city of Noting, otherwise he wouldn't be so arrogant in the academy, and even the teachers rarely bother with him. Having watched his father's various behaviors in the officialdom since he was young, he has also been somewhat influenced by the atmosphere of officialdom. So, he first thought of Tang San's background. His father had repeatedly reminded and entrusted him that in this world, there are some big families that absolutely cannot be offended. They are even more terrifying than the imperial family. The imperial family still cares about face, but those big families don't need to. Angering them would bring catastrophic consequences. Are you really just a part-time student? Xiao Chenyu couldn't help but ask. Tang San nodded lightly. After activating his soul rings, the feeling of being full of strength made him somewhat excited. Now he also wanted to find a good opponent to have a proper fight with, to see how much his strength had improved after the qualitative change. Let's start. At this point, it had reached the point where the arrow was on the bowstring and had to be released. Xiao Chenyu kept a bit of caution in his heart. Even if he defeated the first-year part-time student in front of him, he absolutely couldn't harm him. If Ling Feng's attack was nimble, then Xiao Chenyu's attack was explosively domineering. With a soul ring, his strength was incomparable to Wang Sheng's, even though Wang Sheng's martial soul was the king of beasts. In the case of a disparity in martial soul levels, he was far inferior to Xiao Chenyu. Facing Xiao Chenyu's attack, Tang San wasn't as leisurely as he was against Ling Feng. Having a soul ring and not having one were absolutely two different concepts. Xiao Chenyu's body had just pounced out, and the soul power emanating from him had already enveloped a 3-square-meter area around Tang San's body. This was an absolute strength attack, without any technique. It was all about brute force. Brute force? Let's do it. Although strength wasn't Tang's sect disciple's specialty, Tang San also wanted to see how much his mysterious heaven skill had reached. So, he gathered his palms in front of his chest and slowly pushed out. He faced Xiao Chenyu's wolf claws. At this moment, Xiao Chenyu's subordinates all had victorious smiles on their faces. So, what if there's a 100-year soul ring? This idiot is using his own hands to confront Xiao Laoda's wolf claws. It's practically seeking death. They had personally seen Xiao Chenyu crushing stones with his claws after his martial soul fusion. Xiao Chenyu's hands were much larger than Tang San's, and he was actually hesitating whether to use his own claw strength. He believed that he could definitely crush Tang San's palms with his claw strength, and then the competition would be over. But if he did that, would the people behind him? The speed of the attack was so fast that before Xiao Chenyu could think clearly, his claws had collided with Tang San's palms. With a muffled bang, blue and white light simultaneously illuminated the surroundings, and a burst of airflow from the explosive force swept the feet of the onlookers, making them unstable. Tang San stood there steadily, but Xiao Chenyu's body staggered backward from the impact. Almost subconsciously, Xiao Chenyu's wolf claws had already grabbed Tang San's hands. Being shocked and angry from losing in soul power, he had forgotten his reservations. However, something even more surprising happened to Xiao Chenyu. When his wolf claws grabbed Tang San's hands, he clearly felt that Tang San's hands were as hard as iron, and no matter how hard he exerted himself, he couldn't retract them even a bit. Then, Tang San's hands separated from his wolf claws, and he reversed his grip on Xiao Qinyu's wrist, preventing him from being pushed back like that. Then, he moved forward, and his right shoulder directly collided with Xiao Qinyu's abdomen. Xiao Qinyu's large body was directly sent flying out 3 meters. Xiao Qinyu's subordinates had just prepared to cheer, but they saw their boss being thrown out. This time, their gazes at Tang San completely changed. Is this kid still human? The glossy jade color slowly receded from his hands, indicating that Tang San's mysterious heaven skill internal force should be higher than his opponent's level 11 soul power. Tang San said lightly, "I have things to do. No time to play with you. Let's end it like this. Blue silver grass, bind." Xiao Qinyu had just bounced up from the ground, and Tang San's collision hadn't used all his strength. Ku. Pled with his beast martial soul fusion, his defense was quite good, and he hadn't suffered any injuries. He just happened to hear Tang San's words. More than 10 thick blue silver grass suddenly surged up from under his feet without warning, swirling around him. Before Xiao Qinyu could react, the upgraded blue silver grass had already tightly entangled his legs. What's this? Xiao Qinyu was shocked and lost color. Despite struggling with all his strength, the upgraded blue silver grass was extremely tough. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't break free. Tang San stepped up to Xiao Qinyu, saying, "No need to try. You won't be able to break free. My first soul ring is man-faced demon spider, so my blue silver grass has the toughness of the man-faced demon spider. Of course, it also has a bit of the man-faced demon spider's poison. If you think you still have the strength to fight, I don't mind letting you taste the venom of the man-faced demon spider. Oh, by the way, I won't antidote it." More than 10 blue silver grasses emerged behind Tang San, with the grass leaves suspended behind him, like more than 10 man-faced demon spiders, ready to attack. Fear began to appear among these senior students, and Zhao's lackeys almost uncontrollably retreated rapidly. Even if they hadn't seen the man-faced demon spider, they had definitely heard of it. Who would want to deal with such terrifying snake poison? Don't release the snake venom. I surrender. Xiao Qinyu, despite being the leader among the students, was only 12 years old, after all, and still had the fear of a child. For a moment, he was completely disoriented. In fact, although Tang San's blue silver grass was poisonous, it was only a first soul ring after all, and it wasn't absorbing a more powerful man-faced demon spider. So, the accompanying toxicity was just a paralyzing effect. There was no lethal poison. But how could Xiao Qinyu dare to test it with his own body? The blue-silver grass quietly disappeared from under Xiao Qinyu's feet. Tang San's face revealed the familiar, gentle smile of a work-study student. Since you've surrendered, let's go with what you and Xiao Wu agreed on earlier. Xiao Qinyu stared blankly at Tang San. Should I acknowledge you as the boss or her? He couldn't believe that Xiao Wu's strength could surpass Tang San's. A 6-year-old soul master had already exceeded his understanding. Tang San smiled. Of course, Xiao Wu is your boss. I can't beat her. Otherwise, I would be the leader of Dormitory 7, not her. Ah! Xiao Qinyu's mouth formed an O shape. He thought, you're already so strong, and she's even stronger. Are you both really work-study students, and are you really only 6 years old? Xiao Wu slowly walked to Tang San's side, patted his shoulder, and put on the appearance of an elder sister. Xiao San did well. You've worked hard. Tang San chuckled and said, the teacher asked me to do something else. You handle the rest yourself. From now on, you're the big sister of the academy. Xiao Wu smiled and tapped Tang San's shoulder. All right, you go. I'll take care of the rest. After saying that, she turned her gaze to Xiao Qinyu. What about you? Still not convinced? All right, let me introduce myself. I'm Xiao Wu, a first-year work-study student, martial soul, Rabbit, and a level 12 One-Ring Battle Soul Master. Not to mention Xiao Qinyu, even Tang San, who hadn't left yet, was surprised. He only now knew that Xiao Wu was also a soul master, and she was one level higher than him. Could it be that she also had innate full soul power? A red light shone from Xiao Wu's body. Under the faint red light, her eyes began to turn red, her ears slowly elongated, and soft white fur stood upright on the side of her head. She seemed to have grown taller, and a gentle soul power aura surrounded her body. The soul ring that rose from her feet was also yellow, just like Tang San's, indicating 100-year soul ring. Xiao Qinyu slapped his forehead hard. Xiao Wu, I surrender. From now on, you're the big sister of our Nuading Novice Soul Master Academy. Come on, everyone, let's greet Xiao Wu. A blue-silver grass soul master at level 11 was already so fierce. This was a level 12 One-Ring Battle Soul Master and also with a 100-year soul ring. Xiao Qinyu knew without fighting that he was definitely not Xiao Wu's match. Xiao Wu looked somewhat proud as a group of senior students bowed and saluted her in front of her. She glanced at Tang San, who was still standing there in a daze. You have something to do, right? Why don't you leave yet? Is it only allowed for you to have innate full soul power, and not me? Tang San snapped out of his thoughts, looked carefully at Xiao Wu, raised his hand to touch her soft long ears, nodded, and said, Xiao Wu, so you really are a rabbit. Rabbit ears were the most sensitive. The effect of transforming into a martial soul also appeared on Xiao Wu. The young girl's pretty face suddenly blushed, and she raised her hand to hit him, but Tang San ran away as if flying. Without discussing how Xiao Wu would handle things here, after Tang San ran out of the academy, he couldn't help but feel a sense of relief. Except for worrying about the teacher being poisoned, everything else was better than he had imagined. The problem of cultivating the mysterious heaven technique had finally been solved, and he even gained the skill of blue-silver grass entanglement, making significant progress in strength. Tang San believed that as long as he continued to work hard in cultivation, the mysterious heaven technique would surely make rapid progress. At most, in 10 years, as long as he could reach the 5th level of the mysterious heaven technique, it would be considered a small achievement. By then, most of the hidden weapons recorded in the mysterious heaven record would be usable. Didn't the teacher say that there were many martial soul families sects in this world? What's wrong with rebuilding a Tang sect in the other world? In Doluo continent, whether it was the Heaven Do Empire or the Star Luo Empire, any martial soul hall in a city would be the emblematic building of that city. Tang San just casually asked a passerby and easily found the location of the martial soul hall. Having helped the work-study students deal with the duel just now had delayed some time, and he still needed to go back to bring lunch to the teacher, so Tang San ran to the side of the martial soul hall as quickly as possible, not wanting to waste time. Stop. Little kid, this is the martial soul hall. You can't just barge in. Tang San had just arrived at the martial soul hall and was stopped by the doorman at the entrance. The martial soul hall in Nuading City was a huge dome-shaped building. The width of just the front side exceeded 100 meters and reached 20 meters high, divided into 3 layers. The entire building was brown, and there was only one pattern on the front door of the martial soul hall emblem, a long sword. According to the master's explanation, Tang San knew that having only one pattern on the emblem meant that the martial soul hall of Nuading City was the lowest level martial soul hall.